This is a MyTraps webinar. MyTraps is a piece of software that we've designed to make the process of monitoring pests and collecting pest data much easier. And the hope is that you'll be able to visualize it better, and that as a result, you'll be able to understand it better and make better decisions about pesticide applications. So let's go ahead and launch in. We will cover a few things today. You can go to mytraps.com and sign up for a we have accounts here so that you can just play around with the tool without entering your credit card, kind of kick the tires and see if it's something that's going to work for you. Once you sign up for an account, this is the view that you'll be presented with. So part of the sign up, you'll enter one of the fields or orchards that you manage pests in, and then process complete, you'll be presented with that orchard. So that's where we are here. So the first thing that you're going to want to do when you log into MyTraps is there is a locations tab up on the top, and you're going to want to go in and set up a location for the fields or orchards or vineyards that you're managing pest populations in. So I clicked on the All Locations tab, New here, and I am going to set up a field somewhere in northern Indiana, which is where we happen to be. And I'll call it Field 2. So right here, you can enter the GPS coordinates of your location. You can enter the street address. Sometimes you can even enter your business name, and it just works with Google or, excuse me, Bing Maps, and will pull that up on the map. So, or you can just navigate around the map and locate your location that way. So I've created, I'm going to save it here. All right, someone just put a message that we're having difficulty hearing audio. I'm going to momentarily put these directions back up. So I'm going to take a moment and type in the phone number here, make sure that everybody can hear. Bear with me just a moment. Oh. All right, thanks for your patience. I just put that phone number in the chat so that everybody can get to it. All right, so I've just created 2 locations in MyTraps, one for each of my fields. And over on the left here, you see a drop down that allows you to select which location you want to manage. And then the next thing that we're going to want to do when we set up our MyTraps account is place our traps. So that's fairly painless to do in the web application. There's this Add Trap button. Click that, and then it gives me a cursor that I can click and drag to position where I want my trap. All right, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to add 3 or 4 traps here. See, the process is pretty painless. I can also, when I add a trap, when I hit the Done button here, I click on this name, and if I have a naming convention that I like to use for my traps, I can name it here. And then I also need to select the species. Part of the setup process is you enter all of the species that you manage. I've entered codling moth, oblique-banded leaf roller, and oriental fruit moth. So this one is an OBLR trap. I set these other 2 to codling moth. And then I'll add a 4th that is an OFM. All right. That was pretty painless. Now I've set up 4 traps in this location. The next thing we're going to want to do is enter some data for them. You can do this both in our mobile application and also in the web application. I'll show you how to do it in the web app first. You click on the Trap Data tab up at the top, and then it shows me a list of all the traps that I just entered. I have this box right here represents 1 week, and I've got all the days of the week here. So let's say this particular location I check on Tuesday. So I went in this Tuesday, and these are the counts that I found. And let's also say that I've got a spreadsheet somewhere that I want to enter my historic data as well. I can click up to the previous week on the timeline at the top, and I can enter my data here as well. So let's just do this for a few weeks back. If you have a whole bunch of historic data that us to enter for you, then we're in a spreadsheet, and we're more than happy to. We have some tools for automating importing that. All right, so my data's almost complete here. Now when I'm done, I'm just going to hit the Save button, and then I'll exit out. And you'll see that my interface reloads here, and now I've got a graph that shows all of my data, both how it evolves over time. So right now I have the first week in January selected. I can assure you that there's no bugs living outside in January in Indiana, but we'll just say for sake of illustration, this is what we found. So I can select any one of these weeks, and you see that the numbers in the traps change to reflect what was captured during that week. And then I can move this selector and get a good sense for how the population changes over time. So that's how you set up a basic location with traps and enter data in the web. Let's go over to the mobile application and see how it's done here. So we have an application for both iOS and Android. I'm going to demo the iOS application here. And we'll enter the password. This is as part of the sign-up process. You select a username and password, and you just enter those same credentials in the mobile app. So the first thing that I'm presented with when I log in is those 2 fields that I created. And let's go to field 2. There aren't any traps set up yet. It says there's no traps at this location. I can hit the new button up at the top, and this is the third way to enter traps, because you can do it from the field, and secondly, you can take advantage of GPS in your phone. It will automatically position traps. So I'm going to name this trap. I give it the block number, and I'll give it a trap number, and I'll hit done. I can select my pest species. So this one is the leaf roller. I can choose the location, and if you hit this button on the bottom, GPS button, then it'll automatically track my location, and it'll use the internal GPS of the phone. So I'll do that, and then I also have an opportunity to set how long the lure lasts. So I'm going to default today is when I set the lure, and this is an 8-week lure. And what this will allow me to do is I'll get alerts now when lures are ready to expire, and so I can kind of offload the bookkeeping into the tool. All right, well, I'll hit save, and now you'll see that I have 8 weeks left on this lure. If I come back into this app 3 weeks from now, then it'll say I have 5 weeks left. And so just like that, you build up a list of traps, and then in that list, I'm going to tap on this trap, and I'm going to say, let's say I captured 5 pests. So just for context, I went out once into the orchard, I set up all of my traps, I came back, maybe 2 weeks later or 1 week, and now I'm actually doing the counting. So I found 5 pests, I hit save, and this will automatically sync MyTraps. So now if I was to go into field 2 on the web application, you can see that this This is the trap that I just created, and I can select that date and the count in there. So let's go back to field 1 and enter some data here. So I'll back up to the first field. I've got all 4 of my traps here. Then I can also see for the last 4 weeks, or for the last 3 weeks, what my captures were. And that just gives me a little bit of context as I'm checking traps in the field. Another thing that I'm able to do here is, let's just say that I'm 8 weeks into the season and it's time to change the lure. I can hit the change lure button and set this again for another 8 weeks. And now I set the timer and can get an alert when it's time to change that lure again. So that's the mobile app. It's fairly painless. So that's the general idea of the workflow that you use MyTraps with. Over the course of a growing season, you're able to build up quite a lot of data. So what I'm going to do is pull the cake out of the oven and show you what it'll look like at the end of a growing season. So this is the location in California. These are navel orange worms that we're looking at here. I've got this graph that shows how the pest pressure evolves over the course of my growing season. And you can sort of visualize where the hot spots are. Now I can take this selector and I can move it through time to get a really good sense of how pest populations evolve. And I think this is an incredibly valuable view. The other thing that you're able to do is I've entered pesticide data. That's what this red dot is. I can click it to see the date that I entered it and some other details about it. You can edit in this pesticides tab up here. But I've done that, and now I can see the correlation of my pest pressure to my pesticide applications. And if I build this up over the course of 2 or 3 years, then I can go back and check and see pesticide applications were effective in reducing the pest population as this one did, and which ones were maybe less effective, and use that to learn and make better decisions over time. A few other things I'd like to point out. There are pests up at the top here. So going back to our original example, I've got 3 different, right now I'm visualizing all of my pests together, but if I just want to look at the oblique banded leaf rollers, I can do that. Now only this trap and this graph only shows the OBLRs, and I can do the same for my 2 coddling moth traps. You can see the graph update to reflect that, or my single oriental fruit moth. So in this case, I've distinguished between navel worm eggs and navel orange worm moths, so I can look at these 2 independent of each other. Another thing that I'm able to do is there's a time frame selector up here on the top right. So most folks that we work with just check their traps once a week, but if you happen to check more frequently than that, then you can look at a day view. Or if you want to zoom out for some context, you can zoom out to the month view and just get the averages of all traps for each month. Also, as you might imagine, these traps get a little bit difficult there's a lot going on here, and they get a little difficult to visualize. There's a feature that allows us to group traps, and that will combine traps into groups that are close to each other, and then it'll give me the average count so this is 12 traps, and the average is 237. And this is sort of at the worst. So we'll go back to week view. The other thing that we haven't talked about yet, the color thresholds of the traps. So I'm in navel orange worm. The notion is when the trap is red, then that's when it's time to spray pesticide. And those thresholds are going to vary depending on location or pest. So I can, once I've selected navel orange worm up here, I'm able to edit this threshold. And let's say, I 20 of them. You see all this green down here. If I set the new threshold to 20, then many more of these become red as they're over that threshold. And we've also had some clients that find it useful to see the cumulative number of pests. Cumulative button here that allows me to view this graph in a cumulative mode. You can also see that the numbers on these traps are increasing to show the total number of catches over the course of the whole growing season. If you want to update your pest list after the fact, you can do that in the pest species list up here, the new button, and I could add 2 or 3 other pests if I need to. Another view that is the reports view. So most folks are used to seeing this data in sort of a grid format, and this reports view allows you to do that. So I'm going to go back to 2013 where all my data was. And now I can move through. Each one of these columns is a week, and I can see what the counts were in each. And then also if I have maybe an Excel spreadsheet that I've got some models built into, maybe I have phenology models in there, and I want to use this data, then I've got an export button here, and this will export all of this data to an Excel file where I can do whatever I need to with it. All right, so I'm going to pause here. I'm going to turn the microphones back to ask any questions if you have them. Is all this clear thus far, or is there anything that I can clarify?
Can you go in and show us how you would add a spray?
Yes, absolutely. So you go into the pesticides tab up at the top, and I've got a spray here. So the first thing I do is I enter what date I applied the spray. And then it has a list of all of my locations right here. In this particular account, I've just got one location, but I check each location I applied that spray in. This is my list of chemicals. So list those here. Once you enter them once, it'll autocomplete when you start typing again. So if you have a big long chemical name, then you can just first couple of characters and hit enter, and it'll record that there. And then this is just a general notes field. If I want to do a new one, I can hit the new button here and they show up in the list. If I want to go back and edit a previous one, I can just click one of these. Something that we are hoping to do is do an integration with maybe a CDMS or Agrian for folks that are using recommendations of crop consultants. Those will automatically get pulled in here, and you only have to enter them once. Any other questions before we go on? All right, well, let's forge ahead. So the next thing that we're going to talk about, many of the folks that use MyTraps are growers, but we also have a number of them crop consultants. And if you're a crop consultant and you do trapping as a service for your clients, MyTraps can be a great tool for that as well. So we have an enterprise level plan that has special features directed towards folks that are doing this more in a consulting capacity, and I'll give you a quick tour through those. So the first thing that's different is on the left here, in addition to just having a drop down of locations, I also have a clients drop down. So I'm going to select one of my clients, and now under this location, I see all of the, under this client, I see all of the locations that I manage for that client. The locations tab up replaced by a clients tab, and I can select one of these clients and then add a location for them. And then also I've got some contact information here for this client, including their email address. And what that allows me to do is, let's just say that I'm, managing 3 or 4 fields, and my client likes to go in and look at the pest data, every month or so just to get a sense. Or let's just say that you make a recommendation and he's interested in seeing what you saw in the field. You can hit the share button up at the top, and I'm going to set the expiration for this to never. You can send your client an email which will include a link, and when they click on the link to MyTraps, and they'll see a read-only view of this same visualization. So they won't be able to edit anything, but they'll see the map and the graph, and then they'll have access to this reports tab where they can see the table view of all the data that you're entering. And the other thing that this allows you to do, let's just say that you have a number of scouts that work for you. You can go into my account here up at the top, and you can create new logs for each one of your scouts. And then you can assign permissions based on either client, or you can assign permissions just based on location. So then if I do that, then Scout can log in through the mobile app, and they'll just see the clients and the locations that you've given them access to. So that's the gist of the enterprise level features. There's one more thing that I'd like to show that we're hard at work. It'll be available in about a month, but this is a scouting tool that'll integrate with MyTraps. So you'll have a new tab within the mobile application, and this will allow you, if you do your own scouting or maybe something that you give to your scouts, they'll be able to, with the mobile app, record scouting notes in the field. Each note will automatically get GPS stamped and time stamped. You can enter text, and then you can optionally add a photo, and we're working on video and audio attachments as well. So then when you're done recording all of those notes, you'll be able to see your trip through the orchard in one of 2 ways. You can view it in a log view where you just sort of scroll through and see everything. You can see the pictures in there and when everything was taken. And then you can hit this GPS icon for each. It'll move over to a map view where you'll be able to sort of zoom out and see where each of the notes were captured on the field. And that gives you the ability to sort of audit what your scout is seeing. So let's just say that there's something of particular interest or particular concern to you, then you can open the app and view that same note, use your phone to be guided by the GPS to the exact location where the note was taken, and you can check it out for yourself. So those are the high traps. I would love to answer any questions that you might have. I'm going to any questions that I can answer, teachers?
I have a question. Is there a way that when you're looking at your cumulative trap catches that you can set the date? Like if you are using thresholds that are based on each generation, that you can set the value back to 0 so that then it starts accumulating again for the next generation?
That's great feedback. You cannot do that today, but I can see how that would be quite useful. So we'll talk about that, and possibly we can add that in a future version. Something that we're exploring right now is technology models. So let's just say that we pull the models from UC Davis or WSU, or there are a few locales that we integrate them from, and the notion is you'd be able to pull in degree days, maybe calculate days. We would calculate degree days on a per trap basis. So, sort of using the weighted average of all of the locations that are available close to the trap, and then overlay the phenology model on top of this graph to create some expectation as to when the next flights might be.
Yeah, that would be a really good tool, I think.
And then, one thing that you'd be able to do from that is sort of look at the degree day accumulation on a per location basis. So, let's just say that you manage 5 locations and they're all within the same county. You'd be able, and let's just say that you've got to check them all over the course of 3 days. You could look at the actual degree days and prioritize based on the ones that are getting warmer. Any other questions I can answer? All right, well, I appreciate everybody's time and attention. Please let me know if I can answer any questions for you. I've put my email address, also my phone number in the email that I sent out with the details about this webinar, so don't hesitate to reach out by phone or email. Also, take a look at mytraps.com. It's pretty easy to set up an account there, so feel free to do and kind of kick the tires. If you have any thoughts as to ways that we can make the tool better, like the comment that was just made about being able to reset the cumulative count so that you could see them in relation to each generation, that you folks forget night's sleep about pest management than we've ever learned. So we are very eager to learn from you and understand how we can make this tool better. So once again, I appreciate your time, and we'll go ahead and end the webinar. And please feel free to follow up with me by phone or email if you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is what I've been looking for.
Oh, good.